So we sent our son off to college, and he came home with schizophrenia.
Now our family's searching for the cure.
But in the meantime, this is how we're functioning.
I want to talk about what can happen. Father, mother, creator. Welcome back to We Are Functioning, everyone. Today's podcast is brought to you by GTS, the End User Experts, and One Gun Entertainment. So we're back again, Lovey, and we have some more to talk about regarding our, we're basically going to touch upon or extend upon our last episode, right?
Yeah, we talked about kind of what does it mean to be an advocate? Where does advocacy start, right? We talked about the perimeter of advocacy, what it means for your friends to kind of support us, which we're so grateful, friends who are watching, that you guys support us. And then last week, we kind of left off with, we got into the weeds of it. Advocacy, I'm just going to be real. We were in it, right? And so we want to talk about that because I know that, for us, we haven't been in it for a while. And so, it was, we were having a hard time, and our family was having a hard time, and the community was aware of it. And so we just want to kind of talk through, what does that look like? What works really well? What do we think we did well? What do we feel like, Creator, can you hear us? Right? That's where,
you're talking about the title song.
You know
yes.
it,
okay.
yeah. Head and Hands, that has literally was our theme, was my personal theme song as we were getting through this last bout. So, we kind of wanted to finish talking about that a little bit today.
Yeah, and we, what we did was we actually, if you remember, you might not remember, so I'm going to remind you today. We actually duplicated a process, and the timing of it is kind of interesting because. Again, we're picking up on the last episode of a trilogy we titled Advocacy, and it involved us bringing our son to our condo, and it started out by him changing medications, and we wanted to see how those medications would affect him, so we had him stay at the condo for like 3 days when we were in Minneapolis, and it made me think because this condo we own now, we actually rented the one next door before we purchased this one. And
for that same reason.
Yeah,
right?
He did the same thing where we had him stay over. It was probably about a week, maybe 5 to 6 days. And this is where I'm just talking about where his mind goes sometimes. So we had one bedroom. So instead of him sleeping on the couch, I think in that other condo before we purchased the one we stay in now, he slept on the floor or something.
No, he had that.
It was a mat, right?
What was it called? It's kind
I
of
don't know. He called it a dog pillow.
It's kind of like a futon, but he said he felt like he was on the dog bed.
He not only felt like he was sleeping on the dog pad, but he also would constantly say, "I smell dogs."
Smells dogs everywhere.
So we basically duplicated that. That was about 12, maybe 13 years ago. And then recently coming back to nowadays, coming back to the current, we had him stay in the condo when he was transitioning from medications, and we wanted to see how they would affect him and kind of watch the process, right? And not only how they would affect him, but also would he take the medication? Yeah,
and let's talk about it, because if you think about where we left off before, the community is aware there's a problem. We're aware that there's a problem. The family, our family is aware that there's a problem. And I tell my son, because from his standpoint, there's no problem. I'm fine. And so that's difficult, right? So everyone else is aware that, hey, things are not going right here. And you don't have any idea. How frustrating is that, right? So, and so with that, now we decide we're going to come closer. But remember, we're only family, right? We don't, we have family that are psych nurses, but we are not psych nurses. We don't have training other than, being mom, dad, we're just in it, right? So we're trying really hard to become closer to the situation. And I'll be honest, fear was apparent. It was around for him. He talked to you about that, right? The night before. It's so interesting that in one way he'll say everything is fine, and then in another way he talks to you about things that are on the walls, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is kind of this interesting thing where he doesn't quite know how far away from reality he may be drifting. So that's interesting. But I'll be honest, because I do talk a lot about we've never had violence in our family. I'm super grateful. And yet fear was still there. I mean, whenever anybody's kind of off balance, right? You have fear. Like, how far off balance are you going to go? And do I know how to detect how far off balance is? You know what I mean? And I made the correlation to like a cancer patient, and I'm thinking, if I'm a family member and my brother or husband is in the other room, puking their guts out because they're on chemo, at what point do you know we need medical attention versus I'm just supposed to be here as an advocate through the night? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. We, advocates, we don't know. We're not trained people,
Yeah. And before we invited him to stay over, we kept talking about the prospect of him going to the hospital, because it was literally this close when we were saying, oh, he needs to go in the hospital. Then we'd wait a couple of days and you have a conversation with him. Then, he needs to go in the hospital. But as we know, being a full grown adult, and this is, well into your adult years, once you hit, upper 30s, 40s, you can't make people do anything. And not that you can make your kids do anything, when they're before that or just getting to that teenage or younger, but at least you have that influence. And if you really saw something that was necessary and a change for your younger child, you would push it a little harder. You'd have a little more power compared to, nope, our son has his own place. He has a car. I talked about that.
He's
and
a full, capable adult.
If he doesn't want to do anything, we have no other option but to go with his feel on what he should do.
Yeah.
After we ask him to do something.
I was going to say, and really imagine. So when you think about, again, we see these people living under bridges or, at the grocery store, and they're talking to themselves, or, wherever. We've seen people that are literally having a mental health crisis. And, you often might think, where's their family? And their family, believe me, I trust that they probably have a family member that is trying to help them understand, hey, there's something going on here. But this is the reality that, they do have full will, right? And how insane is it to live in a world where you have full will to do things that are, not good for you?
Yeah. Well, and that's based on your mental faculties, right? Because you believe now, he believes he's doing everything right. Keep that in mind, that he doesn't think he's doing anything wrong. And we can even go back to, and what my kind of like my own personal case study this summer was, it was a reminder to me, like, how does a family, or something reminded me to ask, how does a family look at him? And I realized again this summer that they don't think anything's wrong with him outside of, laziness, bad attitude. He doesn't want to be helpful, this and that. And I just sit there and I'm kind of like astounded. But no matter what you say to them, like we have a relative that said, and now I talk to them separately. So it used to be, my lovely wife, Lovey, would always talk to the family. They'd give her opinion, but now they are giving me their opinions. They're giving their opinions to me. And when a family member said, shoot, he thinks he's got problems, I got mental problems. And then this family member, has been through some things, been through the, judicial system. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. And so he basically said to me, in my words, I'm crazier than him. So his crazy ain't nothing compared to mine. But then they leave it at that, and even at one point in time, he told your mom, I'm just pretending to be this and that. And she soaked it up like a sponge on top of a pile of water. You know what I mean? She just soaked it up and like.
That sounds good, right? Yeah. You'd hope that I'm just pretending so that then you could stop pretending, right? Yeah. I mean, it's hopeful. It's wishful thinking.
And that pretending also made me think about another friend of mine who said that to you one time. A crazy friend that said, Wendy, I'm just pretending to be crazy.
That when you talk about these different personas of yourself.
Performing
Yeah. Like,
friend.
hey, an artist can appreciate this. Hey, I put on my persona to get out here, get on stage, or I guess is it a lot like acting? You put on somebody else's
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, and the reality is that some of us are, also having a hard time. So it is, it's this maddening line of when is your mental illness debilitating? And that's what, because I almost hate the word. I'm resenting, mental illness, this phrase, because it is so vast. And all I'm going to say is it's debilitating. So not everybody that has schizophrenia is it debilitating for. Some, my father, I'll admit he wasn't the greatest father, but he was able to function in the world. He had a job and he functioned just fine and took care of himself until he died. So yeah. So, as he's not well and unbalanced, I think one night, I can't remember if it was before you got there or after you had to leave or something for business, but, it was like midnight and this, kind of this, insanity was going on in the house. It's like, okay, I tried to coax him. Can you take your new meds? I don't want to take them. There's nothing wrong with me. Why would I take meds? You're being ridiculous, right? Now I got to be up in, 6 hours because I got to go to work in the morning. So I finally just said, forget it. I'm going to bed. I'm going to go lay down. And as I did that, you just hear this shenanigans.
That's an old school word, shenanigans.
Oh my God, did I just age myself?
You did. Like 100 years.
100 years. Shenanigans. And like loud, like you said, people going in the refrigerator, bam, in and out the door, bam, You're like, what is going on out there? And then I hear people outside of my window, right? I hear people, wrestling outside of my...
And you think it's people.
Well, and it's my son. And I'm like, okay, something is back to the fear. I'm not afraid he's going to hurt me, but the situation is insane enough that something is going to be triggered. And I don't know what. So I'm just in this like, oh, what's going to happen? So I called you and I said, SOS, help,
Well, let's preface it. Let's go back a little bit. So this is, would you say day 2 or day 3?
Probably day 3.
Day 3 of, remember, the whole, this whole podcast series of episodes started with a trilogy called Advocacy. So the Advocacy was him coming over to stay at the house while he was basically transitioning to some new meds, right? And this was, like she said, day 2, day 3, and the process started elevating what was going on, and a lot of it because we couldn't really get him to take his meds. So it was really interesting watching him fight the ability to take the meds. So, so just to preface again, going back to what you were saying, it was day 3. He wasn't taking them when he was supposed to. And that's how we know, really, because when he's up late at night, we know.
Yeah, and you guys know, if you have family members, that late night, like, it's almost like a nocturnal cat or something. You're like, can you just go to bed? If you guys have cats in your house, you guys know the cats are just going crazy.
Yes.
And, and
he was running around.
And the crazies are catting around.
Yeah, the crazies are catting around at night. They can see in the dark, I guess. But it was... the fear was when I had left for a little while and you were alone. And you guys should know this, and we've mentioned it before, but he is a little different when I'm around now. He's a huge mama's boy. And I'm talking about, you guys know the thing where your kids are upper 40s, 50s, depending on how long the parents live, of course, but could be even 60-year-old mama boys, right? Wanting to live at home, or they come to the house and they don't eat until mom cooks for them. But he's got a really tight connection to you, imagine. And this is a part of being outside the window, because I didn't perceive it as, that weird or anything. It's just he's always wondering, where's my mom?
If I'm okay.
How's she doing?
Yeah, his symptoms start to become very protective of himself and of me. And that's one of the symptoms. Like, are you okay? Is there anybody in there? What's happening? So whatever symptoms are happening for him, they do trigger his protective mechanism over me. Right. And I can't convince him. I'm like, I'm sitting here, I'm totally fine. But but he does, he gets really, so that's why I called you to say, can you call him and kind of talk him off this wall? Because I'm not able to. So you did. And then so how did that conversation go?
Well, the conversation went great because one of the things, kind of I consider a recent development, and keep in mind, we are functioning. This is designed to find a cure for schizophrenia.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
one of the newer things, not new, completely new, but newer things is he's starting to open up to me more about the what schizophrenia is doing to him on a daily basis, on the regular, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, I've learned, shut my mouth and listen, ask him questions, shut my mouth and listen. And, again, when you have a conversation with him, he's always worried about you, especially if he can't see you or if you're out of town. I know sometimes when he calls me, oh, you're probably working. But he worries about, okay, is she okay in there? And I think it has a lot to do with voices are telling him something else is going on.
Right.
So my conversation was all about trying to settle him down, and ask him where is the worriness coming from, right? And he's right there in the condo with you. He just can't see you in the bedroom, but where's this worry coming from? And it's always about how he feels, right? I feel like she's in there and she's not okay, or
okay?
Are you guys doing okay? And I'm like, no, let's not talk about us. What's going on with you? Well, I mean, I feel like I don't know what's going on, and then it goes into, our conversation went from, I'm trying to find out why he's doing what he's doing at that moment to,
that's good.
People are after him.
Yeah.
And so it's the government. It's almost like if you watch a movie or documentary and it's based on a conspiracy theory.
Oh man, that was the conspiracy theory.
That's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, you just nailed it. And so, so when you think about fear, and I was just thinking about that fear, like where is the fear coming from? As my son is outside in the alleyway at midnight, I'm fearful, one, that I'm not going to lose it and go out there and knock the smack out of him because I got to get up for work in the morning. I got that fear going on. I got the fear of, is that going to trigger somebody else in the neighborhood to call the police? And then the reality is, yes, we've had different experiences with the police. All have been somewhat positive, but I always have that fear that, are they going to come with their 3 hours of training and know what to do if somebody does call them? Or is it going to be somebody coming with a gun? I mean, those are the realities. So
especially if you're lurking in an alleyway, which is where our window is.
Right.
He goes out there, to be honest, he goes out there to smoke. There's an area you can sit because the property doesn't allow smoking on it. So he goes out there to sit. But I think at some point in time, he sits there and he's like, what's going on? People don't know whose window he's looking into.
Some people may, but it's midnight, remember, and so that fear. So I feel like fear is kind of in the air. And then he's got his fear of people being after him, fear that his mother's not okay. So you just have all of this fear and uncertainty that's just kind of fills the air, And again, I just think about my friend that said, just because there's no violence doesn't mean that everything is okay. And you know who that is if you're watching, because that was so profound that everybody says, does he hit you? Does he hurt you? And it's like, no, but just because we don't have violence doesn't mean that everything is okay. I mean, these are harrowing, really scary nights for everybody, as we're going through it. It sucks.
Which is the same as, we'll get back to the day 3 of the advocacy, but it leads you to think about, because we were going back and forth, okay, how do we get him to the hospital? What do we do? And then you called and you asked his doctor, and the doctors will tell you, similar to what the police will tell you, well, has he done anything yet? Yeah. So it's this perception in society. I shouldn't even say perception. This is this deep-rooted process where when it comes to seeking, help from, police officers or anyone else, or hospitals, they have to do something first, or something has to happen bad first. And as we know, a lot of times it can be too late.
I mean, it's always too late. I mean, if you have to hurt self or others, which is the criteria to getting help, that's too late for all of us. I mean, nobody wants their family member to be hurt. Nobody wants, for the family members to hurt society. And this is a whole conversation that's very triggering right now from what went on in Minnesota last week. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Yes.
And so, yeah, you think, where are those family members? Well, let me tell you, those family members are seeking help. They're scared. They're worried. They know there's something wrong. And for us, we have the perfect, in many ways, the perfect scenario where we're close connected to our son. He has a doctor that he loves and he trusts. Our son lives in Minnesota, which, hello, is the best, state that you can be in for mental health. Like, we have the perfect recipe. And yet I was just sitting there that night, like head in hands, I just don't understand. We need help here and we can't get help. We can't force him to go to the hospital, even though he needed to be in the hospital. Because let's face it, all I kept thinking is, I'm not a psych nurse here. You know what I mean? I'm mom. I'm just a regular person. I don't have training around this stuff. I just need help at this moment. And they're really, and these laws that are kind of designed to protect, can really be a trick bag, right?
And if you can get him there, that's what the hospitals are designed to do. We want him to go to the hospital for his own protection.
Yes, of course.
And maybe they can monitor again what the meds are doing. I don't even know what if he's in the hospital and he refuses to take the meds? Have you?
Yeah, they cannot take the meds when they're in the hospital during that 72-hour hold. They can.
Are they forced to do it though, or how?
We should have your niece on so she can kind of give us that. What happens on the inside?
I have a niece in the industry. That's right.
Yes, we have a niece and nephew-in-law that are both psych nurses. And think about, these are our angels, and niece, if you're watching, and nephew, if you're watching, you guys are. But they went to school for how long? They've got amazing training, and they've got the kind of protection of the hospital. They know when things are triggered versus not. We're trying to figure this out. It kind of feels a little bit like if we went to the hospital for anything, any medical thing, like, should I cut here? I mean, like, we are not trained for this, but we're put in the position of having to make these really hard decisions at midnight when we have to get up for work in the morning. It's just, it's kind of insane.
Well, and this is what happened during that day 3 that he stayed with us. I just heard all of this banging and clanging and in and out the refrigerator, in and out the front door, because, again, he goes outside to smoke. And I finally just had to get up. And I was, I have to admit,
You're punchy at this point.
I was getting a little punchy.
Right? Yeah.
And not that I was really sleeping, but as we all do, we lay in bed, we watch TV a little bit or for a little while to go to sleep, or some of us do. And I just couldn't take the noise in and out. So first of all, I know he didn't take the meds. Second of all, it's going to drive me crazy. So I got to go out there and talk to him. And I figured this would be, a quick conversation, just, hey, should you stay or should you go? There's a song about it. But we're not going to, I can't listen to this. I'm a light sleeper, so I can't listen to this all night. And when I go out there, I'm trying to have a quick conversation, a little groggy, just chilled. And, now he wants to have a full-blown conversation.
Sure, because he's in it.
He's in
his own thing right now.
And when I got to the point of asking him, well, just tell me really what's going on, and, why won't you take your meds? And he went back to, and you've heard this about several people, other people that we know that have been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and people that are undiagnosed, but they exude the same symptoms. And that would be this conspiracy theory. People are after me, and I don't know why, but we even know that because he started getting a lot of calls on his cell phone, that he changed his cell phone number. Yeah. And he was going through that, and then he talked about what he's visually seeing, and he said, and I would notice it in our conversation, like he would keep looking off and looking at the wall, and he said, yeah, there's images that are floating around on the wall right now, and they're also, and I may be butchering the story, but it sounds like the images were given him ideas or reflections of what to do next. Like, should I stay here at the house or should I go home? And then it will be something that he wouldn't want to look at, because anything that's evil, like I know now when I ask him about it, when I think something is telling him to, he said it a long time ago, something's told me to hurt somebody or hurt someone. And I was like, what do you do when you hear that, you know? And he said, I don't say anything. My thing would have been, hey, just say you're not going to do that. Because I heard him say that a long time ago. He just said it to himself, I'm not going to do that. And I can't remember the full-blown situation, but it was something we were kind of going at it, you know, in button heads and stuff. And he just looked somewhere else, totally out of the conversation we were having, and saying, I can't do that right now. So my goal was to say, yeah, always say, if voices are telling you to do bad things, say you're not going to do it. But his thing is, I just don't listen to him. I don't say anything. But still, if you've got those voices or voices, period, telling you to do something, you can only imagine how that's affected other people in their lives. Have these voices told people to, which we've heard about, go out and hurt people? Yeah. So when you talk about going back to the fear, that's what I would compare it to, because I don't get scared. If anything, I'm more fearful of how I may respond. You know, what I would do. So I've never worried about that. But, you know, going back to what you said, it's a different scenario. And I know, you know, if things got bad, you would, you know, conk him on the head or something like that. Well, if he had to, got a little bit crazy
human.
with you.
We're human. So, you know, you're trying to, you know, tell this person, you know, in many ways, hey, get out of yourself. I got to go to work. And, you know, so we're human. And I think
what the family says.
Yeah.
Quit acting like that.
You kind of do want this to just knock it off, right? I mean, you do. But it's a little bit like, what an asshole are you? It's like saying to the cancer patient, stop all that throwing up because you're having, you know, reactions to your chemo. I mean, it's, you know, so it is. It's trying to manage your own emotions. I like what you said. And what I really realized about getting him help, which was probably my biggest fear, if you want to know the truth, my biggest fear is the fear that I have to use a lot of my own capital, right? This is my son. And like you said, we're very connected. And when he starts feeling like, hey, are you in on it? You know what I mean? Are you in on whatever these guys got going on? Like, he doesn't see me as mom and the protector. He starts to see that, you know, I might be a part of something. Like, for me, that's my biggest fear, that he no longer trusts me. And I have to use that capital when I'm trying to get this very grown adult who's not stable to go to the hospital at a time where he feels, you know, his most vulnerable. Hey, people are after you. And the last thing you want to do if you think that people are after you is take a pill that's going to zonk you out. Like, he's not stupid, okay? Like, you know, that's a bad, I don't know. Nobody would do that. So, yeah.
And it brings us to when I was talking about, you know, he's such a mama's boy in the way that there's pros and cons to it. And the con to it is, you know, you're always saying, and like we always talk about, we can tell when he's not taking his meds. So the con to it is that you're always on him about taking his meds. And it was that particular night, that day 3 or that evening 3, that I gave him the option. I'm like, tonight, you're going to have to think about this. You're going to have to be in bed. You're going to have to take your meds and be in bed by 11. I'm not trying to give a grown adult consequences, but this is our house. So if you want to stay here tonight, take your meds and be in there by 11, be in the bed by 11 and, you know, get some rest. And his thing was then, why are you guys trying to put me to sleep?
Right.
So he didn't understand the process of it. The meds put him to sleep, but they also they're mainly designed to help him relax and sleep. Right. Imagine his mind, it's this motor that's going all night. And he stayed up all night before. We've gotten calls. When you get a call from him at, you know, 6 a.m., 7 a.m.
You guys know, family members, you know, when those calls come in and you're like, this is not good, because
he's been up
humans,
all night.
That's what I tell my son, humans need sleep. So when you're not sleeping, you know, that means something. But, you know, back to the fear thing. So then he decided, was that the night he decided, I'm going home?
To go home? Yeah. And that's what happened. So I'm like, And we were, I just stayed out. I figured tonight I'm going to stay up as long as necessary, right, to see what his situation is or turns out to be. And he, at one point in time, he starts packing up. But it takes him a long time to leave when he starts packing up.
Because he
Okay,
doesn't know. He's
because he doesn't
indecisive,
know.
right?
Should I
Yeah.
leave? And I always think, oh, I don't want to leave my mom here, but should I go home and go back to my place? So he was going back and forth, and then he does these other strange things, which is you'll hear him, not that our place is huge, but you'll hear him go toward the door, or you'll see him go toward the door, and then it's kind of silent. And if you, as me, I'm always peeking and, sneak peeking what he's doing.
Yeah, you're aware of what's
Because
going on.
most of the time he's staring at me. So I do some sneak peeks when he's not staring. I do some sneak peeks when he's not staring is what I meant to say. And you'll just see him standing in the hallway looking at the wall.
Yeah.
And he does that a lot. Now, there's nothing on the walls. It's dark in the hallway. And
Yeah.
you'll walk by and you'll say, oh, you're still here. What's going on? He's like, oh. And then he'll come back in the kitchen. He'll talk to you for a minute. But that night, regarding, here's the consequence. Take the meds, do all of this by 11:30, or you can go back to your own place, right? And he just calmly came in and he said, and he calls me Marvel, you'll marvel. I think I'm going to take off, man. I'm like, it's midnight. It's midnight. Where are you taking off to? I'm going to go back home and chill out. So, and because he had that energy, I knew that he wasn't going to take the meds, right? And, it makes you feel bad because you're like, what other, this is it. This is all I got. I can't strap him down. I can't, I can't compress the medication and pour it in his mouth in a powder form or put it in some type of liquid. Well,
could we?
We had considered it, but how to knock him out? I mean, no. I'm just kidding.
But no, I mean, and just like you, the second that he decides, okay, you're going to go home, you think, okay, good. Yeah, now we're going to get a good night's sleep. But does that take the fear away? Not in your life, right? Now you're like, oh God, how's he doing? How's he going to get home? Is he's driving like that? And, is he going to get home okay? Is he going to remember to lock the door? You know what I mean? You get all of that. And then you start thinking, what are the people in his building going to be experiencing, with all of this? And they did call and say, what's happening? And back to the fear. So while all of this is going on, my fear was, I'm not going to tell them. They kind of asked, what's going on here? And I'm not mad that they'd want to know. I'd want to know too, right? Yeah. But, and it was funny because my friend, Dr. Feeling said, what's really unfortunate is if you told him that he was on the spectrum, they would all just rally around him and just be right there to help him. But if you use the word schizophrenia, right, then images of Michael Myers and Halloween start triggering people, and they get afraid too.
Crazy.
It's like, there's just so much fear around this that it's almost impossible to get the help that you need. Yeah. So,
and that's why it's important to continue talking about it and having conversations about it, because again, out of all what we call this realm of mental illness, schizophrenia is not the one that the results are violent people.
Yeah.
They're probably considered the least violent, right?
Yeah, in many ways.
That mental illness world, right? But people look at it like that. It's got a crazy yet cool long word, schizophrenia,
Crazy.
And the bottom line is it's all individualized. We're going to get into another episode where we talk about the how schizophrenia can come about, right? We've got that coming up. So going back to this trilogy of Advocacy, which is where these 3 episodes stemmed from, this being part 3, it was rough, right? We had a rough time, but I wanted to bring you guys up to date to where now he is actually more accepting of trying some new things. And our goal is always supplements, right? It's not go to the doctor and get new medications prescribed, but supplements. So I just wanted to give an update as you close things out, that he's doing a lot better and his cognitive skills seem to be heightened.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've actually tried some things, but we're not going to bring that up yet because we're not doctors and we're not
Yes, we're not.
we're not in the medical profession, but you can see some obvious things that may help. So we're in the middle of, just so you know, trying that right now.
Yeah, we're trying some new things. And kind of what got us out of that was really, again, we have a great relationship with his doctor. He has a great relationship with his doctor. And it cost his doctor some capital, because I called him and lost it. I'm like, we cannot do this. He needs to be in the hospital. And so, yeah, the doctor had to spend some serious capital in order to get him, on board, and which was hard, because you want to keep that trust, you want to keep that bond, and you can see where it could easily get broken in those scenarios. So I'm so grateful to Honey Babe and my other fellow advocates who are just there to support and really build me up and build us up and keeping us in their prayers during those tough times. You guys need that too. If you don't have it, we want to be that for you. Be a part of this community. I'm glad that you're here, and we want you to come on, talk to us. Let's walk through these scenarios together and tell us your story. We want to hear from you. We want you to be a part of this, and again, create that safe space so we can talk about these scenarios.
That's right. Don't forget to send us your information or your stories at We Are Functioning. You can also always visit us here on YouTube, and you can also write to us again at wearefunctioning.com.
Yeah, we can't wait to have you back. We've got some hopeful news that we cannot wait to tell you about in the next episode. So looking forward to having you back here.
Everyone thinks they have someone crazy in their family, but in the meantime, this is how we're functioning. Take care.